Do we really have food security problems today in the 21st century?
I mean, according to the UN, I think this was last year's statistics. Out of the 7.5 billion people, 800 million people in the world are malnutritioned, so that they have either access, they don't get enough food, enough calories, or they have access issues. And there is still, mass starvation and deaths because of lack of food.
What's the main reason of these problems? Is there a lack of food, or is it badly organized?
I mean, I think the world produces enough food at this stage to feed everybody, but there's several issues. One is with regards to poor infrastructure, logistics issues, where the foods are produced in highly developed countries like the U.S. and let's say Brazil and other places, and the population growth are in some other parts of the world. So getting the food from where it's produced to where it needs to be consumed is an issue. Second is just the agriculture as a whole is not the highest efficiency industry yet. I think I read a statistic that in parts of the world, the yields for corn, for instance, are like 20 bushels per acre, versus in the U.S., which is like anywhere from 180 to 200 bushels per acre. So that this is like a order of magnitude difference in with regards to yield. So what that means is that we have not really diffused technologies that exist today across the world. And then there's also this whole controversy, or this sort of big issue with regards to genetically modified organisms versus genetically modified organisms, that certain, that creates certain impediments, if you will.
As you mentioned GMOs, what's your personal approach to this? And don't you think GMOs can actually help to solve the problem of poverty and starvation? I
think GMOs have been politicized. It's more like a political conversation now rather than a scientific conversation. Obviously, in order to feed humanity, we need to use all sorts of possibilities for additional food creation. So I don't have a personal, opinion whether it's good or bad. I think again it needs to move from the political platform to more the scientific platform.
How can we use the AI and machine learning to improve the work of the agricultural system?
I think so. What we do, we capture a lot of very high resolution imagery, and not just satellite. So it's satellite, it's imagery captured via airplanes, so cameras in the bellies of airplanes, and thermal imaging, and then even drone imaging as one part of the data set that comes in. And then, of course, soil information, seed information, elevation information, weather information, equipment issues and what have you. So that the aggregation of that data and then the analysis of that data allows us to produce what we call smart alerts through a very useful user interface, which Intellinair's product is called Ag-MRI, and just as what an MRI for a human would be, we're trying to do that for fields. The specific areas of AI that we utilize for making our alerts smarter and more accurate and validated by farmers is we use a lot of both computer vision technologies and algorithms, but also modern deep learning methodologies that we spend a lot of time annotating images that we've captured and then as a training set, and then ground truthing them continuously to make sure that as we're annotating, these situations actually exist in the field. So it's not just in the lab, but it's also continuously ground truthed in the fields.
So can we say that these technologies, the AI, machine learning, can help solve at least some of the food security issues?
Well, I think so. I think the more decisions are based on this, data, and the more decisions are based on actual situations that we see, the better the food production systems will be. These types of what I call Earth observation technologies allows not only in the production of a more efficient production of the foods, but also the logistics, the delivery of the foods to where they need to be consumed. So I think it's a bright future going forward from a standpoint of how humanity is going to solve its food security. So I actually am very optimistic that we are going to use AI to address the food shortages and food issues. And as you know, oftentimes political turmoil and wars and genocides and what have you are caused by lack of access to food. Humans make very weird decisions, bad decisions when they're hungry. So I believe the more transparency and the more modern cutting-edge science, the better it is for humanity as far as food security is concerned.
Are there any countries that already use this technology sufficiently?
No country in the world is using all the modern technologies that's available sufficiently. The U.S. is ahead, of course. So all of our customers are based in the U.S., but now we're starting to expand to other regions. You have to understand that there's only 4 crops that provide about 65 to 70% of all foods consumed by humans and animals that humans consume, and this is corn, soybean, wheat, and rice. These 4 crops basically feed humanity. Okay. 3 of the crops, corn, soybean, wheat, are predominantly produced in 6 geographies, which is the Midwest of the U.S., it's in Brazil, it's in Argentina, it's in Ukraine, it's in Australia, and parts of China that also produce a lot of food. So I believe that as these technologies become more ubiquitous, as more people use it, more farmers use it, more companies use it, then we will kind of start, putting making real progress towards this sort of food security for the earth.